Welcome back. I'm Mike Baumgartner, certified referee of USA Pickleball and the director of officiating for the APP Tour. This is episode 7 in a three-part series of our paddles. So, in episodes 5 and 6, we talked about paddles. Episode 5, we talked about, how do you validate or verify that your paddle is eligible for tournament play. And episode 6, we talked about what are the consequences if you're found with a paddle that is illegal during tournament play. Episode 7 here, we're going to talk about what is the referee looking for when they are doing their pre-match briefing and they ask you to see their paddle, your paddle. So we're going to get into that very soon here, and we're thankful that you're here again, and thanks for joining us, Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Swisshelm. I am a USA Pickleball certified referee and a member of the APP head ref team. As Mike said, we're talking about some of the things that go beyond just whether or not the paddle is on the approved list. And we often get questions as referees, well, what are you doing when you're, manhandling my paddle? What are you looking for? And this is exactly what we're going to talk about. So we're doing both a visual inspection and a actual physical inspection, looking for a number of things. I'll list a couple things and then I'll throw it over to Mike and he can list a couple things and we'll go back and forth because there's actually quite a few things that we're looking for. From
Yeah,
a
we're looking for a lot of stuff in a very short period of time. When people ask me that question and I say, "Well, we're looking for this, and this," and they're like, "Wow, you're doing
Wow,
it that quickly."
right.
Yeah, yep.
And we can wax poetic about how much study all the referees do and how quickly we end up doing these types of things. Later on, we may talk about serves, and we'll talk about all of the fun stuff that's going on in a serve and the things that the referees are looking for. But we try to train people well so that they can do this stuff quickly. Once we get on the podcast, we can't talk about it quickly, but we seem to be able to do it quickly. So, visual inspection. We've already mentioned that we're looking for some type of brand and model designation and a USA Pickleball approved stamp. And we're also looking to see whether or not there anything affixed to the paddle beyond an inch from the base of the handle or the top of the handle or within a half inch of the edge guard. So those are things that we're looking for. Now, I mentioned again the USA Pickleball approved stamp. We want to point out to you that counterfeit paddles often have that USA Pickleball approved stamp. So that just because your paddle has that stamp, that doesn't mean that you are no longer have to check to confirm that that paddle is actually on the list. So, and we say this every single one of these episodes, it is your responsibility to actually go onto that website and confirm that that paddle is on the list. Any
Yeah,
other things,
when we're
Mike?
looking, yeah, so when we're looking at those paddles and we see that USA Pickleball approved stamp is on there, there are some other things that have to be on the paddle clearly marked for us as well. So you need a manufacturer's name on there. You need a model name designation on there. Many times we'll run into counterfeit paddles that'll have the USA Pickleball logo or stamp of approval on there, but something is missing from that paddle. It may look exactly like the paddle that is approved, but something is missing. There's some type of graphic missing, like the model name or the manufacturer's name. And once we see those, they're taken out of play.
You use a word graphic. That's one of the things we look for is whether or not they're the technically the graphic this manufacturer applied on here does not need to exactly match what's on the USA Pickleball approved list. However, we do not allow aftermarket graphics. Now, things that do not count as aftermarket graphics are handwritten autographs or signatures on there. That's a recent fix that we made to the rules where if you get your favorite pro to autograph your paddle for you, that's perfectly okay.
Right, right.
Other things we look for, whether or not they've done anything to the paddle that extends the length of it. So if in recreational play, you'll see some people that have a suction cup here on the ball that allows them to pick up the ball easily. That works great in recreational play, but that is not allowed in tournament play.
So, what are some of the things you're allowed to do to the paddle, Bob?
We've already talked about edge guard tape around here. You can put edge guard tape on there either on the edge guard or actually around the edge of the paddle. I tend to scrape my paddle quite a bit on the ground, and that tends to loosen the edge guard. And I found that putting electrical tape around the edge works better to hold it on rather than trying to re-glue it. There's a new product, I forget what the name of it is they have some type of sticky stuff on the edge of the paddle here at the top that allows you to reach down and grab the ball. My understanding is that that is legal, and most referees they may allow it, but also they'll probably inspect the ball to make sure that none of that sticky stuff actually gets onto the ball.
Yes,
Um,
you can add lead tape to that as
right,
well to weight your paddle,
and
as
that's
long
what's
as
right
it's on
here.
that edge and it doesn't go inside of the half inch that's approved. You can re-grip your paddle, right? No problem there. Re-gripping your paddle. You can put a different butt cap on your paddle as long as it doesn't exceed the limitations that are outlined inside the rule book. So there's a length and width designation inside the rule book. Those modifications are okay as long as you don't exceed the specifications associated with the modification.
So all of those types of things are typically the visual types of things that we do. We do a part of our training. We have referees actually put their fingers on both sides of the paddle and drag it along the paddle. What are they looking for there?
Looking for any type of substance that may have been added to the paddle, any type of stickers that may be added to the paddle, just looking for something that may allow the player to have an unfair advantage during play. Looking for damage to the paddles, cracks, pits, any type of damage to the surface of the paddle that may hurt the integrity of the paddle itself.
One of the things that we see often is if we actually do ask you to remove a label that you've affixed on the middle of the surface of the paddle, the referee will double check by feel to assure that none of the glue from that sticker actually remains on the surface of the paddle.
Yeah, I've seen paddles that have, that are worn down by the handle, just above an inch above, that they may have some type of buildup of gunk, I'll call it. So I would ask the players, don't be offended if a referee says, "Hey, I need you to clean that paddle off. It's outside of the 1 inch boundary that we're allowed." It's not meant to be punitive. It's just meant to be fair.
I remember a couple years ago when they first started coming out with the carbon paddles like this one is. I remembered seeing a player during the middle of the rally. They took something and they were rubbing it back and forth on the surface of their paddle. I thought, are they putting glue or something on there? And the answer is no. Actually, that's a rubber like eraser that actually comes either with some of them you can buy that are often used to clean carbon faced paddles, and that's perfectly acceptable as
Yeah,
well.
those carbon face paddles have peaks and valleys all over the surface of that. And as play goes on, those peaks and valleys get filled. It's very microscopic, but they do get filled, and that eraser, so to speak, is what helps empty out those peaks and valleys.
So you talked about edge guard tape or weighted tape here. Are there any restrictions to what they can do with the edge guard tape? Do you remember? That's a little test for my boss.
Thanks. Any restrictions? I would say any type of visual disparity that may cause a problem with the player or the other team. If it's got glitter or something that may reflect in the
There
sunlight,
you go.
things like
That's the
that.
key word. That's the key word from the rule book is that there's a specific rule that says that we can't have reflective edge guard tape. Um, what about reflective or color of the actual surface of the paddle? Do the
There is a
referees
rule.
generally try to do that?
The referees try to do what?
Try to control. Hey Jay, you've got a white face on your paddle, and your opponent is complaining that that white uh, color is
Is
distracting to them.
reflective. Yeah,
Well,
so
not so
there is
much
a
reflective, or
yeah,
maybe it's yellow or
distractive.
orange, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
the color
color
of
of
the
the
ball.
ball. So yeah, referees can call head referees to come out and report it. There is a rule in the rule book about it, and it can be removed from play. That's for
Okay.
sure. Did I pass?
Yes.
I've passed your test? Good. Thank you.
All right. And one of the other things, this is both a visual and a physical inspection. There's this phrase that has been popularized recently called delamination, and we talked about this in the last last podcast. right now, most of the time, if somebody talks about the term delamination, they're talking about internal breakdown of the structure of the paddle. But the rule book has used the phrase delamination for a long period of time about some type of break in the actual surface that's either visible or by feel. And so that is another one of the things that the referee is looking for. Now, often you will end up seeing that physical delamination within a half inch of the edge guard. And one of the things that referees can and sometimes do is to tell the player that, well, if I see a crack right here in this portion of the paddle, I'm going to have to disallow that paddle for tournament play. However, if you happen to have some electrical tape or edge guard tape that you wish to put around this curve of the paddle and is still within a half inch of that edge guard, it's out of sight, out of mind, and that allows you to use your favorite 10-year-old paddle in tournament play.
As long as it stays within the half an inch.
Correct, correct.
And half inch isn't very much.
No, it is not. All right. I think that's everything off my list. Is there anything from your list, Mike, that you want to add?
The only thing I might add is if on the pro level, the pros are getting their paddles checked. Pros will have stickers put on those particular paddles. Those are legal. They're put on there for a purpose. So as an amateur, if you see pros walking around and you see a holographic sticker on their paddle, that means it's been through a validation process on site and it's been deemed okay to use for play. That's the only thing I would add.
And so the referees are told at the tournament, usually on a daily basis, about what number it is that they should be looking for. Those stickers, in theory, are security protected so that once they come off, or you can't take the whole sticker off and put it on another paddle. Having said that, we've had some experiences where the stickum doesn't work real well and it actually comes off or it rubs off. And so, but those are all things that the referee is doing as well. So what Mike is talking about is those situations where there actually is physical paddle testing done externally outside of the match. They're doing that delamination test and surface test to make sure that the paddle conforms to the USA Pickleball standards, and those are all tested using testing equipment. They're not feel or eye type of thing.
Yeah, it's
Um,
just an additional test to ensure, at the pro level that things are kosher.
and I don't know if this is the right place to talk about it, but we've got a little bit of extra time. What happens if anything that the tournament provides to the player, i.e., one of those paddle stickers, actually comes off in the execution of a volley and lands in the non-volley zone? Is that a fault on the player?
Uh, it has been called a fault in the past, but there have been discussions to say, this is something that was applied and required by the tournament, nothing in the control of the player. If that does happen to fall off in the non-volley zone during the act of volleying, it is a replay.
If the referee calls it as a fault.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
we train the referees to hopefully just ignore it and allow
right,
the rally to continue out. But if the referee actually
yes.
calls it as a fault, and that applies both to anything that's tournament provided, and so that
Should be
would
referee correction, replay.
right, and so that would
Yep.
apply to those paddle stickers. It also would apply to a starting server band that breaks for some reason, and that I've never seen that. I've seen the other
I
one.
don't
So,
either.
all right.
All right.
So we've summarize that, this is kind of, as Mike said earlier, this is the three-part series. If this is your first one of the series that you're listening to, where we're talking about what it is the referee that is doing, or what is the referee doing when they're doing the paddle test, that's great. But please go back and watch episodes 5 and 6, where we talk about how critical it is that it is your responsibility as a player to confirm that your paddle is on the USA Pickleball approved list. And then episode 6, we go into detail of what happens if you present an unapproved paddle or your paddle is designated as being unapproved in the middle of the match. Now, actually, it's something that is illegal. So all of the stuff that we've just talked about here is also stuff that can be caught during that pre-match briefing and exclude that paddle from being on. So say, for example, that the referee didn't catch the fact that you had this bold label in the middle of the paddle, but then you complain about that in the middle of the match, or your opponent has it, your opponent complains about it, and you get caught with that in the middle of the match, that is unfortunately a match forfeit. So it behooves you to understand how to make sure that your paddle is completely compliant, both being on the list and then also all of the other things around the paddle that have to comply.
Yep. Well said, Bob. Appreciate it. Hey, this has been referee timeout. If you have any suggested topics that you would like to send to us, what is our email address, Bob?
The email address is referee.timeout@gmail.com. So please send that to us and we'll take any and all suggestions, and we actually may actually listen to some of them.
Yep, we will. We definitely read them all, that's for sure. So, hey, if you don't mind, hit subscribe down there in the corner and subscribe to our podcast so you can catch all the latest and greatest information that we like to share to try to bridge that gap between rules and players. Thanks for joining
And like
us
us, and like us. It's just
and like
subscribe
us.
and like. So
Yep. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Referee Timeout. Take care.